Hi guys, welcome back. Hope you've had a great week in work or whatever you're doing and you're looking forward to the weekend off to relax. So in today's video, I want to touch on nutrient depletion in low-tech, mainly soil substrate tanks like this Walstad tank I've got. Obviously I've got this dry start one as well. So I want to touch on them and talk about a few things because I've noticed a lot of people, especially in our new forum, the Walstad Method on Facebook, check the group out if you haven't already in the chat. And thanks everyone who's been participating. The group's growing quite fast and really enjoying it. So I noticed a lot of people talk about like they get 6 months, 12 months in and they say that the tank's run out of nutrients. Now, this isn't always the case. Sometimes we can have problems with our nutrient levels in the tank, and there's usually two causes. Now, the first one of which is obvious, like nutrient depletion. The tank's run out of all the available nutrients, or maybe just one of them. And then once the tank hasn't got that one nutrient, and we've got two big culprits I'll talk about in a minute. So once it's run out of nutrient, like just one of them, that's it. Like the plants won't take up any of them, and the plants will start looking tatty, and then we need to start doing something to get them back to health. Another one is the availability. You can get lockout of nutrients, so the nutrient can be in the tank. There's plenty of culprits in this. For example, off the top of my head, I think it's phosphate blocks out iron. I think it is. So like the phosphate binds with iron, which is something no content creators ever talk about when they're talking about Walstad methods. It's like magnets in these, haven't we? So it'll stick together on one side, but then on the other side, right, they repel. Doesn't matter how hard I push, they'll never stick together. Now that's what some of these things will do in your tank. And soil has got a negative charge, and most nutrients, ammonium, potassium, and I think like off the top of my head, I think 7 of the 9 micronutrients, including magnesium, calcium, because the soil, like peat or clay, is negatively charged. All these nutrients will bind to it, and the plant roots can get it. Some can lock each other out. If there's too much phosphate in the water column or the soil, the phosphate will be locked out. Like the phosphate will lock the iron out. Like the iron can't get in because the phosphate's there, and then the iron oxidizes, and then the iron oxidizes and it can't be used by the plant. So we can get lockout like that. So the signs are, the first thing you'll probably notice is, even though everything's going all right, all of a sudden the plants stop growing. You notice that your plants haven't shown any signs of new growth, and then there's some like little divas in the tank, like Rotala. And you'll notice stunting on the tips. Now this reminds me of bonsai. If you look at bonsai, they'll have branch structures, and then a lot of people who do traditional bonsai, they'll do like a little bonsai as the apex to the tree. So it's like almost like a little bonsai on top of a big bonsai, if that makes sense. And that's what you'll see with Rotala. You'll see all this growth, and it's supposed to be apically dominant, which means it like gets stronger as it grows. But then you'll get like these leaves about that big, and the next minute you'll get like a flurry of leaves that are like miniature by comparison, like someone's pruning them. And to grow in bonsai, you prune the leaf tips off, and then it pushes further back with smaller leaves. That's how you ramify the leaves. But anyway, digressing. So that's one of the first signs. And then the second sign you'd likely see is your floating plants. This is early advantage. It's called the duckweed index, and what you might notice is your floating plants will start melting back, or they'll start looking rough. Tanks, I've seen them completely disappear, and that's a massive red flag telling you there's no nutrients in your tank. And these are like your canary in the mine shaft, like the likes of Rotala, floating plants. These are like your canary in the mine shaft. These will tell you there's problems before other plants will start suffering, so you can deal with it quickly and your tank ticks along just fine. Then your third problem, usually you're looking at like algae outbreaks. You might start getting algae starting to outbreak because the plants have stopped up taking nutrients and the algae's out competing them for them. That's usually a sign, although it might not be, because obviously there's a few different reasons why algae could grow in our tank. And then number 4, which is always a big one, is you'll start seeing pinholes, little tiny pinholes in your leaves. Now this is a textbook soil substrate problem if you've got a dirty tank, if you're running the Walstad method, because this is a potassium deficiency. Usually this is a sign of potassium deficiency, and every other nutrient in the Walstad method, from potassium and potentially iron. These are the two little problems we have. It's usually potassium's usually the quickest, and then iron. So what we'll get is little pinholes, and if we don't do anything about it, these pinholes will start getting bigger and bigger and bigger until the leaves start collapsing. But all the other nutrients, like I say, you tend to build themselves up in the system as we're feeding. Like, you know, we feed fish food, but you know, in Diana Walstad's book, she's pretty specific on how much she fed a 55-gallon tank to get so many grams of protein, which creates so many grams of nitrogen. So there's pretty specific calculations we can do, and I'll be honest with you, I don't do them calculations. I did, yeah, it got a bit much. So I just kind of wing it. So, but as I say, you know, we're supposed to measure these, and sometimes we don't. Or I guarantee you I don't, and I'll probably bet anyone with a dirty tank doesn't either. And if you do, kudos to you. So the solutions to these problems, what can we do? Now, let's walk through it. So the first thing I'll do is I'll get my test kit out. We always test when things are going wrong, not when things are going right. And if we don't get the test we wanted the first time, we'll always test again. The only time we test twice is when we get the result we didn't want. It's a well-known phenomenon. I would test straight away. I would test your nitrates. If there's no nitrates in there, why not? Yeah, the nitrogen's disappeared then, hasn't it? Phosphates. Now, if your phosphates bottomed out, then your plants aren't getting phosphates. If your phosphates are high, could be locking iron out. And then we've got GH and KH. Now, obviously, we want a nice steady low, just enough to buffer at like a 3. Sometimes, like, I would say 7, don't I? Something like 6, 7, just so we can go pH, GH, KH 7. But if it's 3, we're fine. GH 7, we want to be aiming for. But the problem with GH is it could all be calcium or it could all be magnesium, and if it's all magnesium, that can make calcium precipitate, which I was saying to you before. You know, one nutrient can lock another nutrient out, and I've literally had reef tanks where it looks like snow in the tank because all the calcium's precipitated out. So that's the thing. So what we should do after we've tested, then I recommend start doing weekly 50% water changes so we can reset the system. And then what I recommend doing personally, and what I do if I ever notice like a nutrient lockout or deficiency, is I'll start dosing with something like this that I bought from GB Shrimp, and put his link in the description. So I'll start dosing this like a low lean. It's called lean dosing. So like if it says, I think it's like 1 mil per, let's have a look. So it says 10 mil per 100 litres, so 1 mil per 10. So I might start off with like 1 mil per 100 litres, because we're not running it the same. A lot of these are like, we'll dose in excess and then we'll water change. I might dose 1 mil on a Monday, 1 on a Wednesday, 1 on a Friday, and get a few mils in there. And then weekly, so I'll do like Monday a mil, Wednesday a mil, Friday a mil, Sunday water change, and I'll start again. But what I'll also do is start feeding heavier. Now, any of you is switched on, and yeah, well, you're possibly putting your macros back in there, you're putting your nitrogen, your phosphates back in there. But what about the old chestnut, which is one of the 2 big ones I was going to talk about? Potassium. We can dose flourish potassium, but the problem is like, that's like, for a 25 litre tank like this, one dose is like 75 pence, and this per dose is like 1 pence, and all you have to do is mix it up and add it to the tank, as long as you've measured it. So I like dosing salts. I know a lot of people don't, and I can show you a lot. I can show you how to make a whole one of these. This hasn't got phosphate in it, but I could show you DIY root tabs. I can show you DIY liquid dosing, a complete liquid fertilizer like that. I could show you how to make it with like 4 different ingredients. If that's something you're interested in, I love doing DIY stuff, so I'll mix up DIY stuff and dose it to my tank. You've seen me doing it with me front hose tank. If you're interested in seeing that, let me know in the comments, and knock a batch up and we'll play with some. I could set up another low tech tank and we'll do something like that. So that's what I'll do, and then I'll start feeding, as I say. Potassium, you want to start dosing potassium. It's calculating stuff. If you want me to tell you how to do it, let me know in the comment section. I'll do it. I'll let you know. But then there's also iron. Now iron, in theory, iron should bind to like clay or peat, and it shouldn't oxidize, and the plant roots should be able to take it up. And then if it comes up into the water column, it can oxidize pretty quickly unless it binds with, this is the theory, it binds with the dissolved organic compounds in your water. This is why Walstad says to not change your water as much as they build up. Any completely broken down plants or fish food or anything will build up like a solution of dissolved organic compounds. Now arguably iron will bind and then the plant can uptake it. So oxidized iron will bind with this and then the plant can, it's in a chelated form and the plant can uptake the iron. Failing that, we can dose with like flourish iron. There's other ways of introducing iron to our tank. If you're interested in me talking about that, let me know and we'll sort it out. So there we go, guys. There's a quick look at possible causes of nutrient deficiency in the tank. We've talked about visual indicators, visual indicators of if nutrient levels are getting low in the tank, and then we've also talked about how to possibly raise your nutrient levels back up so then you can get your system running. But just remember, guys, when you're adding these nutrients back to the tank, the plants are starved. They might not start growing straight away. They might start storing the energy because plants don't have a credit card. They can't spend something and then pay it back later. So what they'll have to do is save up. And then once they've got enough energy stored, they say, right, I've got enough to survive now. I'll use the rest to thrive. Then they'll start pushing new growth. But in the meantime, a lot of these nutrients could be hanging around in the water column. That's why I recommend the 50% water change one. If there's an imbalance in there, we can get it out, we can reset it, and then we can start rebuilding our nutrient levels in our tank. And the clay or peat in our soil should start binding these nutrients back up and start getting more biologically active again. And that's a key part of it. Thanks very much for watching, guys. So Patty has actually got a cracking video on this, one of the best videos I've seen on YouTube to deal with dirty tanks, where he's suffering a similar problem and he kickstarts his system again. It's an absolutely cracking video, and I'll post a link in the description so you can go over there and check that out if you want. If you want to see how I balance and maintain my soil substrate tanks, check out this video up here somewhere. And then if you want to see how I set up this nursery jungle style Walstad tank, check out this video that'll appear somewhere around here. Thanks very much, guys. Take care and I'll see you soon.